Do you owe him money or something?
I think so. I think so.
I think
We're going live.
We're live streaming now. Go ahead and take us live as well. It's 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Let's see. How many would
Now we have an attorney.
we got an attorney?
Yes, sir.
Now we do.
We got an attorney. Okay.
I don't have the button to take us live.
Hold on just a moment.
Okay, you're fine.
How you do?
We're live.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, November the 3rd strategic planning meeting, Election Day, USA.
Good job.
Hope everyone has had an opportunity to go vote. If not, maybe we'll get out of here early enough this afternoon so that you can do that. I now call this meeting to order. The first item that we have up is our IDB discussion between districts 4, 5, and 6. But before we get into that discussion, our attorney, Mr. Noblet, was going to speak with the IDB board yesterday, I think, and get their feelings on going to a 9-person board. Mr. Attorney, what was the outcome?
Yes, sir. Spoke with the IDB yesterday. That was their normal meeting here at the first of the month here in November. They had no objection to going up to a 9-member board that would allow each council member to have, I guess, an individual appointee to that board. Did not have a problem with that. The IDB and its initial certificate of incorporation is a Tennessee corporation under state law. The provision is 753-301 that requires that to be established. And the statute at least says that you shall have a board of directors, which is not less than 7 members, all of whom have to be qualified electors and taxpayers of the city. If it's going to be created, and that group is to be elected by the governing body of the municipality and will hold office for staggered terms. So that's the requirement. Since 1967, whenever this corporation was originally established, they've only had 7 members, but it would require the adoption of a new charter, and that new charter could state that it would have 9 members to be appointed by each council district, and they did not have a problem with that.
Okay. All right, very well. Any questions before we go on? Councilwoman Burrs?
Yes, thank you, sir. I wasn't able to attend the meeting where it was discussed. So the only question I had is, I understand we have 1 vacancy and we have 3 that are getting ready to roll off. And I was unclear as those who were ready to roll off, how that was being handled. You were putting everything on hold. I don't have a complete picture.
So, so at our last strategic planning, I think we as a council decided to make just the 1 appointment by districts 4, 5, and 6. The other 3 reappointments would just continue to serve until we could go to a 9-member board at that time.
Okay, thank you.
So the 3 reappointments will continue to serve.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Attorney, I guess the question is, how soon or how quick would this new charter amendment take place?
We can prepare a charter amendment. The board will meet again in December. I'd rather them at least approve that to get that to go off at their first meeting in December. There's no problem with these board members staying on until a successor is elected under the statute to that occur. And I would prefer that occur maybe sometime right at the first of the year.
Okay, so are you going to prepare the new charter?
Yes, sir. Prepare the charter amendment that would be sent to the Secretary of State of Tennessee authorizing that to occur.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Councilman Gilbert?
Yeah, I think he answered most of my questions, but so Phil, in December, that's the earliest that you can get this voted on, correct?
Yes, sir. Next meeting of that board. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you did say that everyone that was there, was they all in agreement
Yes, sir. No one had a problem with it yesterday on there. I did not ask for a motion to approve yesterday, but there was no dispute about saying a 9-member board would be appropriate.
Okay. And Chair, this is a question for you. I know that you answered some of Councilwoman's question, but did you not say that either do we need to start this on the appointment we need to do now for 5 and 6, or do we need just to get whoever we want to go for any district now?
Okay, so this is not necessarily by districts. Mr. Levowitz is wanting to roll off. So the appointment that y'all will be making will be for his seat, for
Is
his
it-
only.
Will it be by district?
So districts 4, 5, and 6, and just here in just a few minutes, we'll allow y'all to discuss and come up with your nomination that will be voted on by the entire council. But districts 4, 5, and 6 will decide among yourself who you would like to nominate to present to the entire council. That appointment can come from really any council district. Typically, it would come from one of the 3 districts that will be deciding on your nomination. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any more question? Any further question, Mr. Gilbert?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments before districts 4, 5, and 6 start their nomination process?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the discussion was that I heard that person was to become, and Darren clarified for me that if we were headed in the district direction, then you were going to opt for somebody from 5 or 6 because there were several from 4. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Chairman, if I can respond.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Leffler.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. I'm going to take the lead of 5 and 6 for this appointment, as I already have 2 District 4 representatives on the board currently. So
Okay.
I'm going to take a back seat as I normally do to you, Dr. Burrs.
Yeah, right. That's true. Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Gilbert and I were still talking because there was some misunderstanding, I think, about how these seats were going to be filled.
Mhm.
And as far as I'm concerned, we don't have that name yet.
Okay, so at this point, you and Councilman Gilbert are not ready to present a nomination to the entire council then, is
At
that
this
correct?
point, yes.
Okay,
I have one more question for clarification.
okay,
All right, so if and when it's time for the 3 whose terms have run out, let's say I don't pick one, whoever is the next one in line, there's 3. Will it be then, let's say it's Yelena Butler, who's from 7 now. I think she's one of the names. Jimmy's one, and somebody else is one. So that will be filled by somebody from 7, 8, 9.
no, ma'am. I think
Okay.
what we are going to do is everyone that's up for reappointment, the 3 that you're talking about, have agreed to continue to serve until
December.
until we have a charter amendment that would create a 9-person board.
Okay.
Then at that time, and I guess it would depend on which council district those members were from, then they would appoint a new person or reappoint the people that are there.
From that district.
from that district. Let me ask this question, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
The 3 that are up for reappointment, are they all from different districts?
I believe so. Yes, sir. They're not from the same districts.
Okay. Okay. So that council person would make that appointment.
And one thing to keep in mind here, we're creating a new 9-member body, and you might want to be thinking about having at least staggered terms for those members to come up, just for the aspect of making sure you've got continuity on the board. Because it normally talks about whenever there is the creation of a board, they would have a 2, 4, and 6-year term on here to have some continuity. And if you're starting this afresh at that time, you might think about that for your members.
Sure. You know, I think to Councilwoman Burrs's point, if Councilman Ledford, I guess depending on if there are more than 2 appointees from the same council district, I think we would have to decide who would make that appointment once that term is up.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you were referring to, correct?
Right. The transition could be a little messy if we're not really clear on who gets the appointment. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. So I think at this point though, we are just replacing Mr. Leibowitz with an appointment by districts 5 and 6.
And the preference is they would come from 5 or 6.
That's what I would suggest. That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Councilman Oglesby.
Thank you much, Mr. Chair. I've been hearing us talking about making a charter amendment, which I would imagine would need to be on the March ballot. So if that is the case, help me understand that a little bit more, Phil.
Yes, sir. It is not a city charter amendment. This is a separate body under Tennessee law. It is a nonprofit corporation that is established. It simply requires it being submitted to the Secretary of State for an amendment to that charter. So it is a separate corporation. As long as I have the board's approval to submit that to the state, then we'll do that, creating a 9-member board.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear for the record, since we mentioned charter amendment, and there may be some thought that we, had to go through a little bit more of a complicated matter to get to that. But thank you for that clarification for the record.
Yes, sir. Both the Industrial Development Board Corporation and the Health, Education, and Housing Facility Board are separate corporations from the city, and they do that so that they can actually issue pilots as a nonprofit corporation, and y'all have to agree.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification. Thank you, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Phil, would the staggered terms also be part of this charter amendment?
You can do that if you wish. It would probably make sense to actually get you back on track so that you've got staggered amendments, so there's continuity of that body.
Okay. Councilman Gilbert, is that a new hand or no hand?
It's a new hand, sir. This is for Phil and also for you, Chair. Phil.
Yes, sir.
Once they vote on the board to change it to a 7 to a 9, and then it would turn into a district thing for each district person will pick from a district.
Yes,
and
sir.
if the person that's currently have a person on that board from a district, they would not be the ones voted on. They'd be the ones that are voting on the district that's not there.
It would be up to the council of how you do that, but yes, that would make sense. If you've already got someone in that district to continue, the only question is the length of the term that they would have at that point if you're trying to establish continuity.
And then the next question is the appointment. Now we can choose either from 5 and 6 or any other district currently.
Yes, sir. They only have to be an elector or taxpayer in the city. That's the only requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Phil, would you prepare us a list of everyone on the IDB, what districts they are from, and when their appointment or when their term is up?
Yes, sir. I've got that right now. Maria has prepared me a list, at least as of last year. I'll confirm all the numbers, but I believe they're all correct.
And then email that to all the council.
Okay.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to bring up if we wanted to discuss or entertain the discussion of the 6-year term that might come into play if it's something that we wanted to mirror the council term as we would be the appointers of the appointees. That might be a good conversation point to have, because 6 years, I know we've had folks that have served and willing to serve again, and I applaud that effort. But if we're going to move to an appointee from the district representative, might it mirror that 4-year term?
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments concerning our IDB discussion and appointments before we move on? Okay. Councilwoman, let me ask this question, Councilwoman Burrs and Councilman Gilbert. I don't know that, well, I guess deliberation would need to be done in public. When do you feel like you would be ready for y'all to discuss who you'd like to present to the council?
I'll tell you the confusion, and Councilman Gilbert just asked it again. And I think I've heard 2 different answers before I give you my answer, at least. And that is, it was my understanding that if we're planning on going to this new system, then it was suggested, and I wasn't at the meeting, it was that new appointees come from districts that aren't represented. Is that correct? Or is this appointment, as somebody just said to Councilman Gilbert, can come from any district? And that's what I'm getting a little confused about.
The statute merely requires that they be electors and taxpayers in the city. It does not say anything specifically as to district. But
I got that. I thought you guys said that you wanted to head toward one from each district with these new appointees. That's why Councilman Ledford was standing back, because he already had people from 4.
I think the comment means each council person would like to make their own appointment. It does not mean that that person has to come from that council district. In other words, for instance, if it were my turn to make an appointment, I could choose to make an appointment from District 1, or I could even choose another district. I mean, the person could live in another district, but it would still be my appointment.
Oh, I thought y'all wanted to have each one of the districts represented.
Well, I think that's the outcome that will happen. But I don't know, Mr. Attorney, that would be something that we would have to write again in the charter, correct? That they would have to come from the district that is making the appointment. I mean, right now they can come from the whole electorate.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that would be another charter amendment to make.
Yes, sir. And that's different than the state law, because the state law is merely trying to make sure you have someone that might be a member of the city or a voter in the city. The concern you got is if you're looking for someone that has financial experience, or someone that might have experience on how, community development occurs, you may not have someone within a specific jurisdiction within your city that has that unless you go citywide. That's the question.
So Councilwoman, I think to answer your question, we're looking for each district member, for each council person to be able to make an appointment, but that appointment does not have to necessarily come from their district, if that helps clarify anything for you.
Yeah, if that's y'all's intent. Yeah, I thought it was to be more diverse, but yeah, hey, no problem. All right, my answer to your original question is Councilman Gilbert and I, as far as I'm concerned, can come up with a name between now and next week.
Okay.
Russell,
Mr. Attorney,
Yeah.
is this coming up with a name something that needs to be done in a public meeting?
It should be announced in a public meeting and then have your election.
That's not what I asked.
Sure.
Their deliberation, so two people coming up with one name, they have to talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Does that discussion have to take place in a public meeting?
It should. Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my question. So, Councilwoman, we would either have to do that at a 3:30 agenda session or wait to our next strategic planning meeting.
okay.
So you prefer waiting till the next,
Well, or we could do it somewhat under other business next week at our 3:30 agenda if that's okay with the rest of the council. How long do you think it would take you and Councilman or y'all two to come up with a name?
Not very long. We were not in total agreement about what the message was, whether they were to come from districts or
Okay.
whether it was just the district person could appoint from anywhere.
Let me do it this way. Do I have any objection from the council for Councilman Gilbert and Councilwoman Burrs to have a discussion towards the end of our 3:30 agenda session next week? Do I have any objections of doing it then? If not, your silence is golden and we will have a discussion. Madam Clerk, would you put that on our agenda, on our 3:30 agenda for next week at the end of our regular agenda before we go into committees? Put discussion of IDB appointment by districts 5 and 6.
Yes.
Okay. Are we good, council?
yes.
Okay. All right, we are moving on. Under other business, we do have a couple of pending presentations and education sessions. I will just allow you to look over those. There's about 6 of them here. Most of those are occurring either next week or on the 17th. Councilman Byrd, we have the fire department pay, I believe, next week during Public Safety Committee. Is that correct? We still good for that?
Yes, sir. Phil was wondering, Chief Hyman was wondering how that was going to go. So I need to reach out to him as well to see, when you say fire pay, how that would be articulated to us and who would be presenting to us at that time and how that would look. So I need to definitely talk with him a little bit and talk to the administration.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, any questions on upcoming presentations, pending presentations, or education sessions? If not, Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like you to get down to the point of administrative items for future consideration. I have some other business. So I'll wait on everyone else for where you are.
Okay, down at number 4, I guess, is where you're talking about?
Yeah, before we get to number 4, I have some other business.
Oh, okay, I got
Okay.
you. I got you. Councilwoman Burrs?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'm not seeing any hands or comments for any of the pending presentations. So at this time, I'm going to take Councilman Mitchell for other business.
I'm going to yield to Councilperson Burrs, if you don't mind.
Oh, no problem. Councilwoman Burrs. You're up.
Yes, sir. There are 2 issues that I would like to bring up. One has to do with littering. The other has to do with panhandling. And the other has to do with budget priorities. So I would like to schedule number 1. Councilwoman Coonrod, as the memo I sent out stated, wants to have a discussion about how we can be part of the budget process. We started the process yesterday, and we had over 230 people signed up to start the BFO process. She has asked that we, on several occasions, that how does council have input? Well, council's input has to do with our own strategic planning and our goals and objectives. And what we do is discuss these and make sure that they're on the part of the administration's screen when they're looking at everything. Normally, we've done them later in the year. And the only way I know of to have input from the get-go of what our priorities are is now. And it comes in the form of our goals and objectives, which we give to the administration every year. So I don't know how long that discussion would be, but I think we need to have it. And it's at your discretion, Mr. Chair.
Well, looking ahead, we do have, I think, several things for the 17th that we probably need to address. So I'm looking at December the 1st.
Okay.
To discuss our priorities, which, if I'm not mistaken, we did that last year, and I'm not sure about what time it was, but we all the committees reviewed their various priorities and goals, and then reported back. Do you anticipate it being something very similar to that? Because
yes, sir, except earlier in the year. So what I'm trying very hard to do is, when it comes budget time, for no one to be able to say they didn't have full participation.
Sure.
And we've started out that way, and I want to make sure council also has the opportunity to have full participation.
So why don't we do this? Can you send out an email to the council, to each committee chair, asking them to review the various goals and objectives, and then we'll have a discussion on the 1st
Yes,
concerning those.
Yes, sir. Nicole, would you please send me the latest version you have?
Yes, I'll do that.
The one that's of record of us. I've got one. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the second thing I would like to schedule is, we've been having a lot of complaints about panhandling at major intersections.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like further discussion of that. I was hoping Vice Chair Smith would be here, but I noticed the ordinance that I sent all of you all was signed by him. And we already have ample ordinance for public welfare and safety for these panhandlers not to be there. I have, in no way am I talking about the homeless. These are two different groups of people. And the homeless, we should make every effort to help. The panhandlers are part of a group of folks that hang around. They have handlers who pick up their money. It's a whole different ball of wax. The police department know about it. And now some of my constituents have found out about it when they've tried to be helpful to people by buying the meals, and the people have gotten in trouble with their handlers for not being there begging. That's not what we want in our community, and I'd like to figure out how we can best address that issue. So I would like to schedule that discussion. And we can send out the ordinance again, but it's very clear that that shouldn't be happening. Enforcement is another issue, and I guess that's what we need to discuss. And the last thing, and Councilman Mitchell, I believe, will speak further about that, is litter. Not garbage, not brush, litter along the roads, particularly at these intersections where the panhandlers are. And in general, I know Councilman Gilbert has talked about that a lot. Our city can look better, and I think we need to address that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman, let me ask you, your panhandling ordinance, to review that. would that be better under an education session? Or, I mean, we really don't have pending legislative matters as of yet. So would we just place it under education sessions to educate ourselves and then come up with maybe some legislation? Is that how you see this?
Well, I see it probably going to the legal committee or the economic development committee, one of those committees. The ordinance is 13295, which can be sent out. There was a lot of work done on this by this council.
Mhm.
And it clearly protects free speech while dealing with the other issues. I'm not sure what's happened. So maybe it's a review of it. Nicole can send it out to everyone, a clean copy, but it clearly was very good legislation. And I'm not sure what's happened so that we're dealing with these issues now.
So let's do this. Let's schedule that in a legislative committee under under Vice Chair Smith for just a presentation. Maybe bring in the police, bring in some others for the attorney. I think could probably weigh in on this. Would you like to schedule it that way through a committee?
That's great. And if Nicole would circulate that ordinance to all of us, I think you'd see pretty clearly that we've done good work. There's something missing in the translation.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I've got a hand up by Councilman Mitchell and Councilman Gilbert. Do they, I guess my question is, does it relate to the issues or that Councilwoman Burrs brought up, or a different issue?
Both.
Both?
Yes.
So you want to go ahead and take a stab at Councilwoman Burrs and then.
A stab at Councilwoman.
Gosh, I hope not. That might hurt.
I'm glad we're on Zoom.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to finish up quickly, well, not finish, but just to take the litter issue a little bit further, the administration's putting together a policy. They will present it to council. It's not quite ready yet, but some questions were asked about litter that didn't feel like we really got some solid answers to. So they're putting together their policies on litter pickup, et cetera. And as soon as they have those, I asked that because it was Councilperson Burr's complaint originally, that the two of us look at it, make sure that it is something that the council can look at and, if necessary, act on. And so, and then it will be circulated among the council. I guess I'm just wanting to get it on strategic planning to be prepared to have that discussion in the hopefully not too distant future.
Councilman, let me ask you this: the litter, would that not? Well, I'm not sure if it would or not fall more under Public Works. Would we not need to handle that, or could we not handle that in a Public Works committee? Yes,
we could. There is one next week if it's prepared by them, but I also would want the council to have it in advance to have the discussion. So I guess that would just depend on when we do it, but it could be handled in that venue very well.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Second thing, the administration needs to talk to us about an application to TDEC. And I'm wondering if Mara Sullivan is here that could come in and shed some light on that just real quickly. And then if it begins to drag a little bit, we could put it off for another session. But I think they're up against a pretty stiff deadline, and there's an opportunity for us to apply for some money from TDEC.
Okay, I feel like we're shifting gears right here. Let's hold that thought.
Okay.
Until we finish up with the litter and the panhandling discussion.
Okay, that's all I have about litter.
Okay.
And then I was going to move on to the others. Remember, I said I had both.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Bring that back to us in just a minute.
Okay.
I do have some other hands. I want to make sure they are able to weigh in on. Councilman Gilbert, your hand up about panhandling or littering.
It's about littering, also about the BFO.
Okay.
On the littering, is the littering community also, or is just pertaining to interstates? Are we talking about the whole community when it comes to littering? Or is so much litter in our communities on the side of the roads and all over the place? Are we just concentrating on just the main artery of coming in and getting off the highway, or are we talking about all communities for its litter?
Well, if I might, Mr. Chair, I believe what we're talking about is where the city has responsibility. You know, on some highways, that might be the state's responsibility. I know we have some agreements with the county government as well as the state government on some things, but what is, and that's part of the policy to figure out what's what and where.
Yeah.
So it would be the highways or the roadways or sidewalks, wherever litter may be gathering. What is the city going to do about it?
Okay, thank you. The other question was the BFO in the conversation right now, this year on our budget, it was stated it was 8 to 10 million short because of COVID-19. COVID-19 is not going nowhere no time soon, so it's probably be higher than that this coming budget. Are we speaking about that at the beginning of these meetings of BFO of a projection of a higher shortage so that people won't think that we got pie in the sky, we can all get everything we want to get on the BFOs?
Is that a question for Councilwoman Burrs?
Probably is, most likely, yes.
I'm not sure. What is your question?
Right now, on our budget currently, we was $8 to $10 million short because of COVID-19. COVID-19 is not going nowhere no time soon. So if we are already 10 to 8 shortage, then it's probably increase. In the meetings with the BFO, are we talking about that before the meetings get started so that people can understand we might not have X amount of dollars to do X amount of things that everybody wants us to do?
Yes, if you, in the meeting yesterday, that was gone over. And you got sent copies, I believe, or you can look on the webpage and you can see the whole presentation. I had the privilege of introducing it, and then we hit on all those topics. So see if that meets your need. All of it's open to the public, Russell. So you can go to that, see everything we've done, and then refer your constituents to it, or if you have any further questions.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Byrd, budget, panhandling, or littering?
After, go ahead.
Okay, very well. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chair. This is a panhandling question for Phil or Dr. Burrs.
Okay.
The legislation we did pass was very specific in addressing issues at the time, impeding traffic, the intersections, even mention a speed limit on the road. Phil, do you have that in front of you? And can you tell me just a couple of the highlights? And then the next question is going to be a bit rhetorical, and we'll save it for our next conversation. But I guess what I think I heard was we were dancing around, is it being enforced?
Yes, sir. The one thing I've noticed, at least in reviewing of the ordinance that is passed, and it's at 2539 in the code that you've got currently, and it's ordinance number 13295. But the provisions in the ordinance don't deal with littering associated with panhandling. That's one thing that you might also consider, because that does occur sometimes in connection with these operations. The aspect of panhandling itself is defined as aggressive begging or panhandling or solicitations as well. If someone is merely holding up a sign and saying they would like to have money, that is not considered to be aggressive panhandling. There are provisions that talk about where you can do that and where you can't, and whether it's an area where there's heightened personal security concerns, like next to an ATM, that is prohibited. There's distance restrictions for building entrances where people might be blocking entrances to a location, that is prohibited. and in any designated commercial or historic district where there are narrower pathways that occur. So those are limitations that are currently within there. And then there are also provisions here about streets or highways where there is a speed limit in excess of 35 miles an hour, where it's an entrance ramp or an exit ramp. Those are all provisions that are included in your ordinance currently.
Okay, wanted to bring up those points because those were points that were discussed quite extensively, and I think we probably need to pick that ball back up and run with it a little bit further in order to address the issues that we're hearing from our constituents. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think that takes care of littering, panhandling, and budget discussions for now. So at this time, Councilman Mitchell, we will switch gears and we can talk about the TDEC, and I think there's another item that you wanted to discuss.
Right. So I saw Ms. Sullivan was in attendance. Can you bring her up and she can
Sure.
give us a quick briefing? And if we need more than a quick briefing,
Miss Lydia?
we can deal with
It's
that.
on our way.
All right. Hi, Miss Sullivan.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Good to see you.
How are you today?
I'm well, thanks.
I think Councilman Mitchell has maybe a question or wants you to give us an update on a TDEC application.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much, Councilman Mitchell, for doing so. We were invited by the state of Tennessee, the TDEC, the Energy Conservation Department, to apply for a grant that of dollars from the VW Mitigation Fund. And it is for applying to acquire and add electric vehicles to our fleet, as well as electric infrastructure. It's about a 50-50 match, which is unusual, but to be that high of a match, usually we're coming to you and saying it's about a 20% match or something like that. But it is about a 50% match, but it is a great opportunity for us to at least get some dollars from that VW mitigation fund that was provided to the state of Tennessee. We have heard that it was a very, very short deadline. They gave us about 10 days to put everything together, and an application had to be put in by last Friday at 4:30. And so we did not have time to bring that to you, and we apologize to that, but we did go ahead on the mayor's authorization, submit non-binding letters with letters of commitment. And we said in that our statement was that this is subject to approval by our city council. So we would like to notify you of that, as I'm doing now, and bring that post approval with all of the grant application information to you on your upcoming agendas.
Okay, Councilman Mitchell, any backup or comment to that?
Well, I guess my only comment would be, no, I don't really have any questions. It was already explained to me, but obviously is if the council wants to act either negatively or positively with this, I'd like to see us do it as soon as possible.
Okay. Ms. Sullivan, when are you projecting or thinking this would need to be on our agenda to vote up or down?
We could add at your direction, Mr. Chair. We have the documents are obviously ready, so we can add at your direction.
Well, I don't want to push something in front of the council that they're not quite ready to be on the agenda. So I'm going to look for some guidance from our council members. Would 2 weeks be okay?
Can they send the information now so we can go over it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We can send it this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any objection? Let me put it this way. Is there any objection for putting it on our 2-week agenda? And that would be 2 weeks from today.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't have an objection, and that's the rules. And I'm in the position where I help make those rules. So, but if the council receives the information today, it's a question and you can shout me down. But I'm wondering if we could put it on next Tuesday. And if we can't, I totally understand and we'll
Are you
back
breaking
to
the
the rest of
rules?
my life.
You breaking the rules? What?
Well,
Breaking the rules.
Mm-mm.
well, it's a strange time we have out there, and it's a program that I wish we would have gotten more notice. I wish when we had notice that we would have been notified before now, but I'm sure it was probably to find the money and to go after this. It was probably a pretty extensive process the administration followed to decide whether to do it or not to begin with.
So, and I'll just say this from my standpoint, anything that has to do with the pandemic grants and funding, I feel like I've been pretty flexible to try to get it on as quick as possible. This feels a little different. And I'm not wanting to pit council members against each other. Let me rephrase the question then. Does any council member have an objection to putting it on next week's agenda? Speak now.
I have some questions if I can squeeze them in there, Chairman.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you. Hey, Maura, is 2 weeks going to be detrimental to the process for us? I'm sensing that it is.
No, it's
No?
really,
Okay. Number two, can you tell us how much we applied for?
I can, I'm looking at my notes here. We applied for $959,414.
Okay, and that's a 50% match.
It's a little less than 50, so the match by the city would be $434,000. And it's
Okay,
mostly infrastructure construction would be part of our match. So it would be
right.
getting the places ready to have the electric vehicle plug-in, et cetera, ready.
Okay, and that was kind of my third question, and where I'm kind of trying to figure out whether or not next Tuesday or the Tuesday after, will you send out an outline to us specifically outlining the program and what you plan on using the funds for?
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure we're not trying to squeeze in a special project here.
Yeah.
That may have been lurking out there, that we all of a sudden got an opportunity to pay for half of it or something. That if we're going to treat this with urgency.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That would be my concern. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
And it is not, but
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, now I do have some hands by Councilman Byrd. Is that still for something else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilman Gilbert, just about the TDEC?
Yes. Mara, where would the city get their funds from, the $434,000? Would it come out of a one-time deal, or is it coming out of the capital, or what?
It is, I can't remember. I think that it is partially operating and partially capital. So, but I'll have all of that in the backup documents for you.
Okay.
I can't remember the amounts between the two, but I will have that for you. And I don't, as I remember, when we get it, we don't have to immediately have the dollars ready, so it can go over a number of months that may even take us through into the next budget year.
Is the projections in there for what we're going to benefit from?
Yes, sir. The vehicles that we get, et cetera. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to restate my question. Is there any council person that has objection for putting it on next week's agenda?
I rather have 2 weeks.
I'm sorry?
I rather have 2 weeks. If it's
You'd
not,
rather have 2?
Mr. Chair, I will yield to desires. So
Okay.
let's go for 2.
I would feel more comfortable, Councilman, with on a 2-week agenda. So,
Thank you for your consideration, council. With you all the way.
so that will be on the 17th. Everybody good? Okay. Mr. Attorney,
Yes, sir.
this proposal will be on our 17th agenda
All right, sir.
for a vote.
Yes, sir.
All right, Councilman Mitchell,
Okay.
you had one more? Hold on, does this involve Ms. Sullivan?
No.
Can
It
we
does
excuse
not.
her? Can we excuse Ms. Sullivan?
Well,
Okay,
that's all right by me.
all right, Ms. Lydia. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. All right, Councilman Mitchell.
All right, Mr. Chair, the second issue is one of something that will, again, just bringing it up to get on some agenda. And we've received some information from the attorney's office on dockable scooters. And they've made some suggestions about directions we should go in about our regulations. And I think that document needs to get in front of the council and we need to have a discussion about it. And I know Mr. Bailey's in a hurry to bring those lovely things the downtown Chattanooga area. But that's just something that I'm asking for some time at some point. And of course, I need you to get the information before we have the discussion. So when would you suggest we do that?
Well, here again, I think that falls under transportation, which is in your committee, sir. I would see no reason we couldn't have that discussion in committee next Tuesday.
Okay, and Phil, Mr. Attorney, could you get the information you sent out to me?
Yes, sir.
To the rest of the council?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about litter and we're going to be talking about scooters as well as going over the agendas in next week's Public Works and Transportation Committee. While I'm at it, I have a question, and this will be the last thing, Mr. Chair. I think we got some kind of briefing, but I'm not sure it was really very thorough or extensive, and things continue to come up about alleys in the city, at least over here in District 2. I'm sure there are a lot more folks with alley questions outside of District 2. Is my memory correct? I'll give you an example of this latest one. We have the unopened alleys. We have the open but unmaintained alleys. We have the open and supposedly maintained but not very well alleys, and that'll be as far as I'll go about my smart up comments. Someone was informed, a constituent was informed that alley is unmaintained, so they're on their own when a tree from the alley fell on their fence and cost about $16,000 worth of damage. My question to that was, can you show me a list that says that is on an open but unmaintained alley list? And I'm not calling the administration's bluff exactly, but I feel the need to have another conversation about alleys and clarify and make sure, one of the things that we claim that we want to see is transparency. But when someone calls the city and says this has happened, and a magic list appears, or maybe it's a real list and it appears, it seems that we ought to be more transparent about communicating that type of information before the fact, before they're looking at $16,000 worth of damage, so they know about liability and things like that beforehand. And I just feel the need, and I guess this will be in Public Works and Transportation at some point, not necessarily next week because we're already getting pretty full, but maybe the following one, that we have this conversation and try to get it more extensive in information and what policies and where the administration is going to be more transparent with their alley policies with the public.
Councilman, could you ask Mr. Bailey to put a presentation together and email it to the council prior to us having that in committee?
Yes, I'd be glad to, Mr. Chair.
I think that would be most helpful.
Yes, I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Well, that's plenty to chew on. Councilman Byrd, well, let me back up, Councilman Byrd. Councilwoman Burrs, did you have a question about alleys or what Councilman Mitchell was talking about?
It was just a follow-up on the scooters.
Yeah, okay.
Jerry and I got the draft legislation at the same time and feel it's very good. I just have one question of clarification.
Yes.
I know I keep harping on helmets. The state law does not require helmets, right?
Not for people that are over the age of 16.
Okay. We cannot be looser than the state law. I believe we can be tighter than the state law.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there any reason that we don't require helmets when people are zipping around on scooters?
That is one of the things I've included in the legislation for discussion for you here, just to say that if it's a docked system, then the docked system could require helmets and provide helmets at that point.
Could provide.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. Are they required? May we require them?
If you put it in an ordinance, yes, ma'am, they would be.
So the answer is yes. And then could we add that included in the dock list? The only problems that have happened across the country usually are severe injuries. And I'm just wondering, I know we all want to be free spirits, but I'm just wondering if in the downtown area, or at least in Chattanooga, that we want to support the scooters. It's the public welfare I'm concerned about. And I'm just wondering if that can be included.
Yes, ma'am. And we can talk about that right now. The moratorium is prohibiting any dockless scooters. The docked scooters would be an exception to that if you want to go there. And it does require the operation with helmets on here.
All right.
Currently.
I would request, and I don't care what you call it, dockless, no, it doesn't matter. If that is something that my colleagues might consider requiring in downtown Chattanooga, because there's a zone there.
Yes.
So that's it.
Okay.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Bill, let me ask a question following up on Councilwoman Burrs. If we prohibit docked scooters from being on the sidewalks and they're in the roadways,
Yes, sir.
would they not then everyone be required to wear a helmet if they're riding on the road?
That is what I've got in the ordinance right now. The docked scooters here must be written on the streets, and they would require someone to have a helmet.
Okay.
Dockless as well?
Dockless, there's a moratorium on dockless.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Don't worry. I mean, that's, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll let y'all talk about that. No problem.
Councilman Gilbert, question on docked scooters.
Yeah, real quick, Phil, do
Yes.
they include a private person having their own scooter? They got to have a helmet if he passed the helmet requirement?
If there is a requirement for us having someone operating on a street, we are not talking about individually owned scooters at this point in time, only the docked system that would be operated as a pilot program in the city. They would have to comply with general state law otherwise.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, Councilman Byrd,
Thank you, Chair.
you have some other business you want to?
Other business, yes, sir. Well, one of it is to second and piggyback off what Councilperson Mitchell was explaining about the alleys. Definitely in District 8, we are having some major issues when it comes to if this alley is abandoned, is it maintained, who maintains it, who doesn't maintain it? Can we turn the property over to our constituent if they are maintaining the alley themselves, spending money on it? So definitely second that. We need a better understanding of how we're going to do these alleys or move forward with legislation to make it clearer to our constituents on how this alley process works. So that's one thing. The second thing is me and Councilperson Oglesby, we share Clifton Hills, and I need someone from the administration to give us a better understanding of what we're going to do about the flooding in Clifton Hills and on Cannon Street. Before 2017, we were told of land that was crushed and illegal dumping going on that land, and that crushed the pipe. That happened in 2017. And now in 2020, it's still being explained to this community that we have to deal with the flooding with the land and go through some legal process. So I don't know if this is something that has to be done in committee and public works or on a side note or sidebar, but this community is in an uproar because they're not getting a clear understanding of where the city is. And we're gonna see a situation where a kid drowns in this park or something happens to a family member or someone on Cannon Street because the flooding is just getting out of hand because people are illegally dumping on these sites and they're crushing the pipes under the ground. So the community is fed up and they need to hear something. So I don't know, Justin was supposed to have an update for me before he left and how we were moving forward and reaching out and getting this fixed. But now they're telling the community once again that we're having to go through this long process. The same thing they told them in 2017. So I just want to know if it's something we need to talk about in public works or if it's something that we need to take a side note and me and Erskine talk about it with the administration on another platform. I don't know. So I'm just trying to figure out where do we go with that.
Would you like for me to bring Ms. Sullivan in
Please.
and have that discussion? Ms. Lydia, would you bring Ms. Sullivan back for just a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Oglesby, while she's doing that, I saw your hand. Do you have something to add right quick?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very timely. In addition to the situation that Councilman Byrd alluded to, there's been a lot of concern about the mosquitoes that has been being attracted to that area, and people are not being able to enjoy being able to sit out on their porches or for their kids to be playing over, on the playground, which is a big concern, considering all the kind of health hazards that mosquitoes can bring, especially during different times of the year.
Yeah.
So that in addition to what my colleague Councilman Byrd alluded to is another serious problem that we need to deal with, particularly before next mosquito season rolls back around.
Okay. All right. Ms. Sullivan is now in the queue with us. Ms. Sullivan, what is the best way that these councilmen need to handle this situation with the administration? We need to address it in public works, or is this something that we can take care of in another way?
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the patience that council members Oglesby and Byrd have had with us while we've worked through this really difficult situation. But I also sincerely understand the impatience that they feel and the frustration that the community feels. I am happy to have us give a report in committee so that the public can also hear that report. I think that I think that that's needed. So I'm happy to do that. I hate to continue to overload the Public Works and Transportation Committee, but we're happy to do that, to have our project manager come and give an update on where we are and really show the maps of how difficult it is and what we're trying to do. So.
Where did Councilman Mitchell go? I think he checked out for just a minute.
I think we ran him away.
We overloaded him, didn't he?
Yeah. You gotta take a break.
So I think we're pretty full for next week on the 10th. So the 24th, why don't Madam Clerk, there he comes. Councilman Mitchell. The 24th, we would like for Ms. Sullivan to come and give a briefing on what's being done on Cannon Street concerning the flooding, the mosquitoes, illegal dumping.
And Clifton Hills.
Okay, yeah, is that, oh, yeah, in Clifton Hills.
Okay,
So that'd be the 24th, sir.
And Carruthers Park specifically, that situation over there is horrendous.
Okay, all right. So if you would address that specifically, Ms. Sullivan, on the 24th, we would appreciate that.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, absolutely. All right, Ms. Lydia, you can excuse Ms. Sullivan again. Councilman Byrd, anything else we need to?
That's it, sir. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. All right, I think that wraps up other business, takes us down to board appointments and items for future consideration, which we will be going over during our agenda session. Is there anything in particular on either this week's agenda or next week's agenda you need to bring to our attention before we go into and cover it in agenda session? Councilman Ledford.
Mr. Chairman, can I go back up to pending legislative matters? Phil, I thought we had, and we're working on, and I saw a draft for a city codes relax amendment during a natural disaster. I kind of feel like that should be in pending legislative matters.
Yes, sir. We got at least a request from the Board of Zoning Appeals, at least about
No,
some.
that's different. That's different. That's another item I want to talk to you about offline.
Okay.
But this one is specifically dealing with the Department of ECD. And what I saw in a draft was the mayor having the ability to waive city code violations such as grass cutting and whatnot in a natural disaster area for a certain amount of time to help people recover and not to place undue burdens on already stressed individuals and constituents and taxpayers, property owners, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, and I thought I had started a draft on that, but I will bring it back up to you here.
I do remember seeing it. All I want to do is make sure it's that I think needs to be in pending legislative matters, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Clerk, and what would be the proper wording for this, Councilman, so that we can make sure and identify it?
City code natural disaster relief.
Okay.
How about that?
Would you put that under B, pending legislative matters, Madam Clerk, so that we can trace that and put Councilman Ledford's name by that?
Yes.
And thank you. And Phil, I'll get with you offline on the BOZA request and help clarify that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman, for letting me interject that.
Sure. Okay. Anything else that we would need to cover during our strategic planning before we go into our agenda session this afternoon? It is just a little bit after 1 o'clock and our agenda session will start at 1:30. So it would probably be nice to have a little bit of a break. So at this time, if there are no other items that need to come before us in strategic planning, we will adjourn and we'll see you back at 1:30.
Thank you.
All right. See you then.